Well, g'day, Max here again. Welcome back to the Swan Valley Machine Shop. So the object of this video is to finally make a start on the necessary repairs on our Kasto power hacksaw here. So I'll put a video on this every couple of weeks probably, just on progress updates. And I'll just bring you along for all the important parts in the refurbishment. So I'll bring the camera around and I'll just show you what my basic plan of attack is with this saw. So as far as the actual model of this saw, absolutely no idea. What I've been able to look up on the internet, it's very similar, looks the same as a BSM 420 Kasto. So that matches up with the jaw opening, which is 420, the blade length, which is 650 millimeters, and the year of manufacture, the one that I saw, was 1980. Now that puts this saw in about that approximate year, because when I was an apprentice fitter and turner, apprentice machinist, I actually saw this saw. I know where the saw came from, so I did actually see this saw in operation back in the early 1980s, so that sort of all ties in. I haven't found any badging or stampings to identify anything of yet, so we'll just see what turns up. So right, so our plan is we want to completely remove this whole top frame as a unit and just set it aside. We do have to get into the workings of the speed. It is a 2-speed saw, and I need to start and get it all stripped down till I'm just left with the bare base frame, so I can clean it out, pressure wash it, give it a new coat of paint, and we can start assembling it, repairing. I see we've got a bit of cast iron welding there to do, and there will be a few bits and pieces that have to be remade and machined. I do recall seeing something a little bit worn in the pivot action, and it's got a bit of an oil leak we need to get on top of. So we'll get set up, and I think we'll get rid of this, the top frame first. Part of this is I've got to be a bit careful because there's a big spring-loaded hydraulic cylinder underneath which controls the frame. So if I let go of this, I can hear the air leaking out somewhere because it's out of hydraulic fluid. So that bit of wear that I just mentioned, it's like in a vertical. I don't think that's supposed to be there like that. Yeah. So there is something worn. So looking down into the bowels of the machine, this is the coolant sump in here. That is the securing end of the spring-loaded hydraulic cylinder in question. So we have to come up with a way to release or hold the spring tension secured. Now this is really the only access point that I can see, so what I'm going to do is we'll look through the arched window, and what I think I'll do is I'll work our way inside slowly. So I'll just hook this motor out and see what we can see from the other side. So I'm glad I just didn't give the cable a big snip. So all of the wires are numbered, which is good, as they're all the same colour. So this motor, so it's, if it's, I don't know if it's original or not, quite possibly is. It's a 3/4 kilowatt, so 4 and 5 horsepower, the way I read that. 1460 and 2900 RPM. So now we have a big hole, and that's our cylinder in question, but we still don't have access to the other end yet. So with the saw in its fully down position is our ram in its fully extended position. So that's under maximum spring load there. So that means the spring is at the front edge of the cylinder. So what I'm going to have to do, the rear pivot is just here underneath. So there'll be a pin running through here. We can't release that in this position because that's got a lot of weight on it. So we're going to have the frame of the saw lifted up in its maximum position, and hopefully I can slacken off this cap screw, which is that one there, and see how it reacts. Now if I still feel a lot of pressure, whoops, it looks to me there's an adjuster here, so we can probably back that off and see if it releases some of the spring pressure. Failing that, we have the option to slacken off these caps, one on either side, where the main frame pivots. That will allow some upwards movement if we still have pressure on that ram due to that spring. If we would go to that extent, yeah, we'd wrap a sling around it and support the whole frame with the overhead gantry. Okay, well that worked out quite good. So with the frame elevated in its upward position and just retained with a ratchet strap, I was able to slacken off this cap screw. So now we have free movement in that ram. So we can safely take this cap screw out, lower the frame, and it should pull out of there, and that will give us access to the rear pivot. So it's just the weight of the saw on the rear end of the pivot, counterweighting it, so that's good. So let me hook this out and bring the frame back down. Right, well that was a ticket. Our ram has vanished from sight in a controlled motion, and is quite happy dangling there in the breeze in our motor cavity. Okay, so now we can remove this rear retainer pin, hook the ram out. So no wonder it leaks oil. In true German thoroughness, that's your hydraulic line to the cylinder. It's a single acting cylinder spring return. So instead of porting directly into the head of the cylinder, it goes through this manifold. So there'll be seals inside this manifold, and the oil would possibly run through the pin to another set of seals in the end here to the pivot, and then down into the cylinder. So that's why there's that oil leak that I have. And just looking down here, looks like we've got a bit of an issue going on just here. So there'll be some bit of aluminium welding there. All right, so let me hook this pivot out. And also looking on the underside from the other side, there's this funkiness going on here. Now at this stage, I'm assuming that's part of the mechanism for the return stroke of the hacksaw, so the frame just slightly lifts. So there might be a linkage and a piston in here which shoots a little bit of oil in for each return stroke so the blade does not drag. But we'll know what's going on in there shortly. So this is where we wait till Mum's not looking and steal a baking tray out of her oven, because sure as shit, any oil comes out here will totally miss this drain tray. Actually, before we slacken this banjo off completely, we want to slacken off at first its mating nut on the other side. That way when you load up the banjo, it's still held securely by the through bolt. Which will probably hit that, so we'll just undo it here. Okay. Let's pull this end cap off, see what we've got going on here. One thing good about videoing this stuff is when it comes time for reassembly, it does provide a good record of how things went, which way around things fitted, providing you get it all, you know. This banjo bolt I think is going to hit this tube. Oh no, we'll just get past it. Okay, set that there. Okay. Okay, so we've got to be careful. We've got a ball in there. Ball on the seat, so there's a check valve, and a spring. Okay. Possible this end plate is held on by a gasket, that's why it's stuck. Let me go and get my copper hammer. Let's give it a bit of a twack. Okay. So that's the end of the pin we need to remove. It's also part of an oil manifold. So I'm guessing that pin is retained by that cap screw there. Okay, this is starting to turn into a can of worms. So our pin in the center there, I do not have access from the rear, as that plunger there blocks off access. So that screw further up there is for that vertical plunger. So realistically, the pin looks like it's tight in the head of the cylinder. I don't know if there's any shoulders involved. So that leaves me with two options. One is to remove the entire gear drive and go at it from the other end. And the other option, which I'm going to try first, is because the bore of that pen does nothing, it's just an oil passage. I'm going to try, providing it's not hardened, I'll try tapping a couple of threads in there and giving it a bit of a gentle pull with a puller rod. See if it frees it up. It might just be tight on seals or something. We'll try that avenue first. Well, I tapped a 12mm hole in the end of that pen and put a gentle bit of pressure on. Nothing too excessive, as I don't want to break anything, or hopefully. And no, that pen's in there solid. It's quite possible it has a shoulder on the other side, possibly, because it is a part of an oil manifold. So it looks like I'm going to have to go the long route. So I really don't want to break anything. So this drive gearbox has got to come off anyway. So I'm going to tackle it from the other end, remove all this, and see if we can get that other plunger out, that vertical plunger, which is that one up inside there. We'll go from there and then see what's revealed. Well, after much prodding and poking, we've decided to leave that pen in situ as it's not coming out at all. We did manage to get out the plunger. That's for the blade return, the lift that went up inside that bore there. So that has a bearing on the end, which obviously must run on a cam. And yeah, that as the cam goes around, gives us a little bit of movement, supply, and pushes a bit of oil into the cylinder for the lift. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to disconnect the wiring for these limit switches, and I'm just going to pull the whole lot off, RAM as well, and one caboodle, and set it aside on the bench, and I can deal with it separately there. Right, so we're all slung up. We've got what wiring needs to be out of the way. So we've had to put 3 slings on. So we've got one there, just a bit of a balancer. This rear one's taking most of the weight. And if we look down the end, whoops, there's a fair bit of weight in that drive, so we've got a separate sling onto a couple of come-alongs up there. So we'll give it a tug. Should lift up square now. I've got it all adjusted. Yeah, so there was no way in the world that pen was going to come out without wrecking something, so I wasn't prepared to take that chance. So we're going to take the RAM with it. It looks like once we get to work on this, it looks like these 2 big side plates can be separated. So if that's the case, then that RAM will come out then, and we can work out exactly what's going on with the thing. So we'll just gently go up. Now I'll find a place to put it. We'll just put it up there on the boring mill. Hardly a drama. At least it's out the way. Right, so I'll go and get all the vice and ancillary stuff stripped off this off camera, and then we'll bring you back for the repairs that we have to do. For instance, there's a piece of cast iron missing out of there. That should have a piece coming around to form the arc. So I'll go right through and we'll just carry out what repairs are necessary. I'll get all this cleaned up, get it painted, and yeah. Right, well that's our main frame of the Kasto saw, all stripped down. All everything that needs to be out is out. So I'll give that a good pressure wash now, bring it back in, start cleaning it up, ready for paint. Then probably pressure wash it again and give it a new coat of paint. Then we can move on with the issues in the main frame and the oscillation mechanism. Fair bit in the wiring department going on with this one, being it's just a power hacksaw. So all this conglomeration here goes to the pedals at the front. There's a couple of pedal switches which are there and there, so we'll leave all that be for now and deal with that when we've got it all washed and prepping for paint. Well, okay, quick pressure wash job, and it come up all right. It's good, managed to get in and give the coolant some good clean out and everything. So I won't be too fussy with the paint, you know, it's a functional working item, it's not a showpiece, so we'll do what we can. It was actually surprisingly clean. It did come from a large company, engineering company here in Perth, J&E Hoffman Engineering. And obviously, looked, when they took the saw out of commission, they had sprayed or painted like a wax protector over all of the machine surfaces, all of the working surfaces. I mean, there was no beard growing in the coolant tank or anything like that, like my saw gets. So cool. So she's ready for preparation for paint. Well, that's it, all ready for a coat of primer. I've got what paint off that I intend to get off. I'm not too fussed about the inside. So yeah, we'll get some primer on this. And then partially primed, I've just flipped it over end for end to get the bits that I couldn't get before. So yeah, a bit more primer to go in this area here, and a bit inside. And yeah, we'll get the top coat on. Well, that's a big portion of the Swan Valley green paint on the saw's base. Come out, I just did it with a brush and it come out alright. Lucky the paint I used was good quality paint, epoxy enamel, and I've still got, you know, a bit to do underside, but I'll catch that when I flip this back around. No, paint come up quite well. So I'm just in the process of running a threading tap through some of the holes so we can get these switches remounted and get all the wiring reinstated down there, and the machine surfaces all cleaned up. So once I've got everything here that directly attaches to that base, which is most of it, cleaned up and sorted out, painted and put back on, so that makes that part of it complete, that's when I'll start on the frame and the drive. So I'm just in the middle of making a bench, a good thick solid bench They're the legs, and it will be only 3/4 of the height of our standard bench here. And the idea of that is for things like the saw base and the saw frame. I can sit on that low slung bench and it will make it easier to work on. Had a bit of a clean up too, like a big clean up. So where I had all that tooling piled up there, it's all clear, all sort of jammed away. Tooling rack's full. Should have made it bigger. Yeah, it's a bit wild and woolly outside today. It's like winter, so I need to get a piece of inch plate, so I might wait till the morning. Yeah, it's blowing a gale and pissing with rain every 5 minutes, so yeah, I'll plod on with this. I'm just going to clean up the machine surfaces and just run a tap through all of the threaded holes. So while we got the saw in this orientation, perfect opportunity to get these switches remounted. These are foot pedal switches, and all I know is they got something to do with the lifting and lowering of the blade, I think. I've got managed to get a manual, but it's for a slightly different model. And it's written in German. So trying to establish a model for these saws is a bit of a mission if you're not really familiar with them, as I'm not familiar with them. I did manage to find a serial number, but it doesn't sort of relate to a model. Yes, I'll get these mounted up and these cover plates go over. Before I put the cover plates on, I'll just check these switches here with a multimeter, make sure they work. And I've just got to clean up these cover plates, and where the foot pedals pivot, the rivets need tightening up as they're a bit wobbly just from years of use, so we'll get that sorted. And then they can be mounted back on with the pedals, the rocker pedals. So yeah, we need to get these rivets peened over a bit better to tighten up these pedal mounts. So hopefully this clamp a bit of flat bar in the vise. That's working. Okay. Got it? Right, so we'll check our pivot alignment and make sure we haven't got too much free play in these balls where the pivot shaft runs through. There's a bit of wear on them, but nothing too substantial that I'd bother about. So they just have a small locking screw goes in. She goes through the top of the pedal there. So I'll get these pedals all cleaned up. I'll paint them once they're back on, but I'll just check those switches with the multimeter first. And all the buttons that actuate the switches feel good. They've still got really good spring pressure. Probably a high-low beam switch out of a Kubel wagon. That one's good. You need 3 hands for this sort of malarkey sometimes. That one's good. That one's good. Okay. Just run a screwdriver over these terminals just to make sure they're all as they should be. Cool. It'll be good for another 40 years. Yeah, we'll see. Okay. So just prepping our pedals for paint. So you can see in this one, you'll see it across there. Yeah, she's had something dropped on it, had a weld repair, so the whole corner of the pedal is broken out at some stage. Been welded up. They did a nice job of it too. Right, we'll get some primer on them. Well, I did such a good job cleaning them, prepping them for paint, I thought I'd just clear coat them. retain that bit of patina. So there's a piece of the casting missing out of here, and this is the quadrant for when the jaw swings for angle cutting, and there's a shaft and its main lock goes through there all the way through to the base of the saw. So yeah, we should have a piece that sort of comes around sort of like that. And we don't, but we need to. Well, I just started cleaning up the vice jaws in preparation for any repairs or whatever we have to do to them. As we know, we've got this missing piece here. And then throughout this process, I'll sit them on the saw and I'll show you. We have a bit of an issue, so I'm just working out my best way to attend to that. Sexy new workbench that I made. Got a short video on that. Okay, back to our issue. On the deck of the saw here, this area here, so the vice jaw one mounts at the back, which is predominantly the fixed jaw. I say predominantly because as far as I understand from what I'm seeing of these vice jaws, that can be altered. And I've got an idea. The front can become the fixed and the rear can become the moving. And that's so, I think, with the power hacksaw, so you can use the whole area of your blade. You're not just tied in to using the rear section of your blade. So what our issue here is, from here to here is good. And you'll see this line. And that's a step. There's about 30 or 40 thou wear in that, which in the big scheme of things you think it's no problem, it's just a power hacksaw, but then that leads to another issue with our rear jaw. I'll get it sitting on and I'll show you. So this is the rear jaw sitting in location, and it's just held in location by two pins that drop in here. So then you've also got your main through bolt, which I'll just move the camera up. So your main through bolt comes all the way through to a T-fitting underneath and secures with a big nut on the top here. But our issue is this area here being broken away. So if we were to swivel the jaw, that means we'd come around, and we're clamping through our main clamp bolt, and we'd have another clamp bolt which would drop in this slot and drop into another T-nut underneath. Now here's the issue, is if we go ahead and repair this and then we're clamping down on this, there's a little bit of rock in that jaw. Okay, now that is caused by this wear here. So if we clamp down on our main clamping bolt, then clamp down here, there's a chance we could just break out the piece that we've just welded in. That's if we go with a weld or if we go with a mechanical connection. I'm still thinking which way to go. At the moment, it's possible I could reinstate the lug around here with a bronze build-up and then attach to that another piece of cast iron and weld either end of it, or do a mechanical connection at either end. I'm still just sort of umming and ahhing over that at the moment, but regardless of what I do, this step is still going to compromise this repair. One way around it that I could do is just do the build up on here to reinstate where there's dowel pegs go, the location pegs, and forget about this. But what I could do is make a separate clamp that does clamp down, and that would probably be the easiest way around and solve the issues. Failing that, what I would have to do is set this up in Olga, the whole saw, and machine this whole top deck. So I'm just weighing. I would like to do it properly and have this machined and do the proper repair on this, but then I've got to stop and think, well, at the end of the day it's a saw, you know. So yeah, I'll just come to a decision on that one. And I've just taken some measurements and it will just fit in Olga. I'd have to make a special tool holder to hold a cutter, because we got no room to spare in it. That saw sits 500 millimeters high, and we've got, our table is fully lowered at the moment. Just get my tape measure to play the game. So we've got what do we got, about 590. The camera's not going to focus on, oh there we are. We've got 590 to the end of the quill. So we've got 90 millimeters spare up our sleeve. Bear in mind, if I sit the saw on the table, it has to sit on a couple of cross supports, minimum of 20 millimeters thick, so that leaves 70 millimeters left for a cutter, which is doable. It would have to be, the only way I could do it in that distance is possibly a fly cutter, as most, you got a fair bit of height on most other cutters. So and also this machine is only sitting on timber blocks. I haven't got round to putting her proper feet, so then I would have to bring that job forward, cut out some inch plate and mount it down and bolt the thing down to the ground, because I don't know what weight's in that. There's probably a good 400 kilograms, I'd say, in that, 800 pound. And that's a fair whack to be hanging off the end of the table without the machine being bolted down. So yeah, I've just got to scratch my head and think about this one. Well, yeah, so I'll bring this one to a close here. So I would really like to do this properly and machine the top of this, but then I've got to weigh up, well, at the end of the day, it's just a saw. Is it going to be worth going to all the extra effort? But then if I don't do it, it's going to jeopardize how or whatever repair that we do here, because it may not always clamp on a flat surface, which is never a good outcome for a repaired piece of cast iron. So yeah, let me think about it. Anyway, cheers, thanks for watching, and yeah, we'll see you in the next video where we might be cutting out bits of plate for Olga for some base plates so we can shim it up level and bolt it down. Who knows? Alright, cheers.